of an existential question for you. And I say it's existential because I bet you when you hear the question, you will have really had to take a moment and ask yourself like, whoa, she's right. And it might be a little bit about moment. But the question for you is, when was the last time you asked yourself, what is it that I want? Sit back and ask yourself, like literally sit back, put your feet up, whatever, feet on the desk, and say, when was the last time I asked myself what I wanted? Free of anybody else, free of what my kids wanted from me, what my husband wanted from me, what my partner wanted from me, what my boss wanted from me. What is it that I want? Really? And I'm telling you, it's probably been a while, because I know for me, before I started therapy, it was a long friggin' time. I couldn't even remember the last time I had asked myself, what is it that you want? Because I was too busy following the direction and guidelines of everybody else, all the expectations of everybody else, especially of society. And I was in a place where I didn't think that I could actually ask that question, that I had free will in a lot of ways, which is funny because we live in a society that tells us we have free will. But realistically, it's like you have free will, but like to a certain extent. So don't question too much what it is that you want. Just question enough. And then you kind of get lost. You know what I'm saying? I'm not sure where this video is going, but we're going to roll with it. And it's a question you really need to ask yourself, to take a moment and say, what is it that I really want? And of the things that I really want, how many of those things am I actually making strides towards? Because I bet you could say, oh, I really want to do this, or I really want to go back to school, or I really want to have this kind of career, or I really want to take up music, or I want to do art, or I want to do this. But there are so many excuses that can get in the way when it actually comes to taking action. And I know for me, when I started to think about going back to school and becoming a therapist, I had a million excuses. There was no way this could happen. I was too old. I couldn't go back. There's no way. My bills, like all this stuff. But what was interesting was that when I started taking those strides, when I started putting one foot in front of the other and actually saying, this is what I want, despite what everyone else might think, because trust me, many people had many opinions about this. People thought I was like out to lunch, like completely bonkers. Like, well, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Why are you starting over? You have a life. But this was the first time I had the freedom to say, this is what I want, and started to go after it. And there were people that were very supportive. There were people that weren't supportive in the beginning, and then they came around. And, there are people up into this day that are like, meh, I don't know, to each their own. It's not something I would have done. But it was that moment that I was very, very empowered, in an empowered position where I was standing in my truth, standing in my authenticity, and I was doing what it was I wanted. And as I made strides towards that, the path became clearer. The way became clearer. I just had to have an inner knowing and be all in, and then things started to come together. So that is why I'm actually encouraging you to ask yourself that question. What is it I want, and what is standing in my way of me getting there? That's another piece of that puzzle, because a lot of times what's standing in your way from even taking the first step is fear, the what ifs, because the brain, this guy goes worst case scenario all the time. What if you can't pay your bills? What if you are a failure? What if you can't do it? What if people laugh at you? What if people judge you? Like, this is always going to give you worst case scenario. And if you think about it, it's meant to, because it needed to keep you safe for a really long time. So its go-to is always going to be in protection mode, and it protects you by going into what if mode. But if you can look at all of those what ifs and take them one at a time and say, okay, what if it doesn't work out? Okay, but what if it does? What if it does work out? What will life start to look like when it does work out? What kind of person will I be? Who will I be? And start to get curious and envision what that might look like. Because until you can envision things for yourself, you can't really make them a reality. You need to be able to see yourself doing it. You need to be able to actually see yourself being worthy enough to take those steps. But all of this has to start with asking yourself the question, what do I even want? What do I even want? I can tell you so many of the clients that I'm working with, so many of the women I'm working with come to me and they're like, I don't even know who I am. Like who am I? And we have to start there, because they're so used to having all of these labels put on them. And that is what our culture does to us in a lot of ways. It just slaps a label on us, and you're this and you're this for a lifetime. And to hell with like who you actually are on a soul level. You just be your label and do it. And it's easy to get lost in that, especially when you're trying to be like partner, wife, mom, all this stuff. It's like, who am I? What do I want? Which is why today I'm sort of challenging you with that and saying, what is it that you want? What is it that I want? Allow yourself to become curious without judgment, because that is what's going to happen. You're going to say, well, I really want to go back to school, and I really want to learn everything there is to know about Excel, because that's the way my brain works. I love it. And you're going to get 150 101 reasons why that is a terrible idea. But I don't want you to judge any of it. I don't want you to judge yourself or think, hey, I'm 65 years old. There's no way I can do that. Just start asking yourself the question. Allow yourself to dream a little. When you were a kid, I can guarantee you, you had unbridled, unfiltered imagination. You could dream so big, and we lose touch with that as we go through our life, as we have experiences, as we are influenced by society and our community and the greater culture. We start to lose touch with that. We're taught like that's really not possible. I mean, I think it's like we get told you can have your dreams, but can you really? We start to become a little bit tainted by what's going on around us, and we unlearn what it's like to have an imagination. So I'm actually asking you now to think about what it is you want, and then start to imagine it. Imagine it like you were a little kid. Let yourself have that moment. And for some people, this is going to be really triggering and activating, because you're going to be like, I have 1,000 responsibilities and this isn't really fair, Denise, and how dare you have me imagine a life that is just not even humanly possible. But maybe there are steps you can take to get you one step closer, to make you feel like you're in control of your life again, to make you feel like you are taking a step towards something that you really want, as opposed to living a life that has been dictated for you, starting to live a life that is designed by you. And that is a very, very different feeling. When you start living by your own design, as opposed to living by the dictation of the greater culture, you will not believe how different things can be. But it takes you asking yourself, what is it that I actually want? What is it I want? And starting there. So I want you to take this seriously. If you watch to the end, I'm going to dance at the end, don't worry. If you watch to the end, take a moment and ask yourself that today without judgment. Let yourself be as curious as possible to dream as big as you possibly can, and then listen for all the objections and start to tackle them one by one. This is profound work, and it is work I'm doing with all my clients all the time. All the time. So if you were looking to supercharge your what is that I want, I am your girl. Please reach out to me. We can have a quick chat about that for sure. But with that, I hope you are happy. I hope you are healthy. I hope you're abundant. And of course, make it a great day. Make it a great day. Make it a great day. This is me writing a list of the things I really want in my life. Okay, let's get to it.